Hi, hi, hi. Oh, here we go. I was going to say, oh, hi, Linda. I was trying to find the comments, the chat. Hi, Tammy. How you doing? Whisper to me, Ashley, Margot, Kay. Okay, gonna get right to it, guys. Look at a couple of these pictures, and then I'm going to read some of their stories, okay? These are the twins right here that we're going to hear about the sharecropping. And their mother and their father and their other brother. Thank you guys for coming to listen. Putting the share in sharecropping. Texas twins may do it Christmas and split their gift by Alta Condren of Kaufman, Texas. During my 1950s childhood in Headley, Texas, population 600, including cats and dogs, our family, the Butlers, were sharecroppers, working the cotton fields in the area. We were a large but close-knit family. 8 of us lived in a one-bedroom house with 3 girls in one bed and 3 boys in the other. We were allowed one game in the house, dominoes, since we didn't have a television. We were allowed to play on Monday until bedtime and on Saturdays if we had our Sunday school shoes polished. This left us lots of time to get creative with finding ways to entertain ourselves, which usually involved some kind of outdoor play. We never had much money for presents or a tree, but this didn't stop us from enjoying the holiday season. Christmas at school was particularly exciting. We'd be sitting at our desks when all of a sudden we would hear a loud siren and bells ringing. Looking out the window, we'd see Santa Claus riding on top of a fire truck carrying wrapped presents. What a sight! We would all gather around the school Christmas tree waiting for Santa to hand us a present, but that would be our very own. We weren't interested in sitting on Santa's lap because we were too busy admiring our gifts. Each one of us was so thankful for that one gift that none of us asked for anything else from this magical man. The school Christmas tree was especially important to us because it often determined whether we would have a tree at home to decorate. Every year, after the holiday party at school, the janitor would take down the tree and carry it to the burning area, which was surrounded by a wire fence. Since there were many poor families in town, lots of children, including my twin brother Alvy and me, would rush to save the tree and carry it home. That's sad. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Vicki. Hi, Carolyn. Okay, Carolyn, you'll like these stories. They're not scary. Hi, Barb. One year, we were the first to arrive and we were excited about getting a tree. But in Alvy's efforts to save the tree from burning, his pant leg caught on fire. As the other children looked on, one boy began to throw dirt and smother the fire on Alvy's pant leg. Alvy gave him the tree to thank him for saving his clothes. Without a tree, we went tumbleweed hunting. Whether we had a tumbleweed or a tree, we still decorated it with the same things. We took icicles from the school tree, made garland out of paper, and used buttons to decorate the tree and canning lids to top it. We were so proud of our efforts. Wish she had a picture of that. That'd be cute to see. Every year we looked forward to seeing the Christmas fruit man, as Alvy and I called him. This man would load his truck with bushels of fresh fruits, mainly apples and oranges, and sell them door to door. If the cotton crop was good that year, Dad would buy one of each as a special Christmas treat. Also, if we had a good year, we knew we would get to order a crate of baby chickens, which would arrive in the spring, and two pairs of new shoes, one for working in the fields and everyday wear, and the other for school and church on Sundays. The crop also determined our Christmas presents. If it had not been good, we got gifts at the electric company, where people brought their children's used toys. That'd be sad. If the crop had been good, we would get a brand new gift. However, Dad couldn't afford a gift for each of us 6 kids, so we drew sticks to see if it would be a boy gift or a girl gift. In 1954, I pulled the short stick, but being a tomboy, I was pretty excited when our gift turned out to be a BB gun. It is pretty cool, though, too, you know. They didn't have much at Christmas, but it sounds like some good memories. On the Sunday after Christmas, Albie and I raced home after church to see who'd get to use the gun to hunt rabbits and squirrels for meat for the family. Both of us grabbed the gun, with the barrel resting on Albie's shoe. I told him to turn the barrel loose or I would shoot his toe. He didn't turn it loose and I pulled the trigger. I then looked down to see a hole in his Sunday school shoe. Fortunately, we always bought larger shoes than we needed so we could grow into them. So the BB missed his toe. Albie shrieked. I knew I was in trouble, so I ran outside. We had a fun game of cat and mouse, chasing each other around the barn. As I peeked around the corner to catch a glimpse of him, he saw my nose and shot. To this day, I still have a dimple on the tip of my nose from the BB. Mom spanked both of us that day, Albie for forgetting to change his shoes after church, and me for putting a hole in one of them. I'll always have fond memories of that Christmas and all the fun times I had with my twin brother. That year was also special because we received a cherished Bible storybook that we shared and read to each other for many years after. We never minded sharing because even though we may not have had much, we always had each other. This one's called The Golden Rule. These are some very short stories right here. Sorry, I'm horrible at getting this on here. That was a picture of Helen Carey Blair, the girl with the big smile and gingham dress, half sitting on a desk in front, was thrilled after receiving the book at Wright, which was Helen Carey, Somewhere in America. The Golden Rule. Somewhere out of nowhere during the Christmas season of 1939, I was in the 6th grade at Parker Elementary School in Chicago. We held a small gift exchange, each of us buying a present for 25 cents to give someone in the class. I did a lot of babysitting to earn my 25 cents and bought a nice flower pin for a girl. Everyone opened their gifts: hair ribbons, pins, yo-yos, tops, model cars, and other toys and trinkets. But when I opened up my gift, I was disappointed to find a pad of rough arithmetic paper. I could just hear Linda right now. She'd be like, oh, well, I bet she enjoyed that, though. It's a good gift. She can use that year round. Then the teacher, Miss Williams, called me up to the front of the room and handed me a package with a pretty ribbon around it. I opened it up and found a book titled Helen Carey, Somewhere in America, a story about a young girl brought up on a ranch. Hi whispered in me. I don't know if I said hi. I was surprised. My name was Helen Carey, too. I felt like the most important person in that room. I think I floated back to my seat. Everyone came to look at the book and said how lucky I was. I lost the book when my family moved to Arizona, but I was lucky to get my hands on another copy years later from a kind stranger I connected with on the internet. Another nice thing someone did for me. Today, I'm proud to show the book to my grandchildren and great grandchildren. From Helen Carey Blair, Phoenix, Arizona. This one is Santa Claus in a Black Sedan. Let me get a drink. Christmas 1953 started out looking like a rather scaled down affair. The tree wasn't as big as usual, and we 5 kids were informed Santa Claus is kind of poor this year. Evidently, it had been a bad year for farming all through the Midwest, including our farm in Guinea Bend, Illinois. It was with great expectation then that I looked forward to the school gift exchange. On the last day before winter vacation, we brought our 25-cent gifts and placed them under the classroom tree. I remember buying 25-cent gifts, guys, in school. Probably none of you were old enough to remember that. We would have a limit, 25 cents, and then I think it went to 50 cents once. And maybe 75 cents when all the way through grade school, something like that. When my present was handed out, I felt through the wrapping and determined it was a book, my favorite gift, for I loved to read. Why aren't you opening your present? Asked my 5th-grade teacher, Miss Tarrant. Students all around me were eagerly tearing off wrappings. My mom said I was to get just one present this year, I explained shyly, and I wanted to take this home and put it under the tree. Miss Tarrant didn't say anything more. Oh, makes me want to cry. On Christmas morning, a big black 40s sedan pulled up right in front of our house. Then out stepped Miss Tarrant, carrying a cardboard box. Santa Claus dropped these off at the wrong house, she said, and I thought you might be able to take them off my hands. Inside the box were several small presents, carefully wrapped in pretty paper, some for girls and some for boys. There was one package, larger than all the others, that Miss Tarrant said she was pretty sure Santa would want me to have myself. It contained 2 books and an assortment of items, not unlike some that I had seen on Miss Tarrant's school desk on the afternoon of the gift exchange. That Christmas turned out to be one of the most memorable I ever had. From Diana Schutz, Catlin, Illinois. That's sweet. Holiday spirit remains. Back in the mid 1950s, when I was in grade school in Rockwell, Iowa, a holiday gift exchange was popular. At 50 cents, the price limit wasn't that steep for most of us. It was the last year before we became too old for the exchange, and I was excited. The only problem was one boy in our class was from a family that was very poor. Of course, he drew my name. I resigned myself to no gift, knowing money was tight with them. I also had begun to learn that it was better to give than to receive. Imagine my surprise when I got a large gift on the day of the exchange. I opened it and found a model airplane valued at $1. I thanked the boy and walked on air for months until we left for summer vacation. Looking back, I realized that the teacher probably bought that plane and put my name on it. Regardless, I still treasure that time and try to believe Santa Claus worked his magic. It was the kindest thing if the te- it's the it was the kindest thing if the teacher did it. But if the boy did it, it was even better. From Mike Fatland, Mason City, Iowa. Angels on Earth. Just some baking. Good, Tammy. I'm glad. I want you to relax. I want everybody to just relax. Angels on Earth. Santa wore Bobby's. Santa wore Bobby socks. Christmas 1940 makes me misty eyed every time I think about it. I was attending high school in California's San Joaquin Valley. In the hard times of the era, people depended on one another. We collected food, clothing, bedding, and household items and gave them to the needy. We saved the toys we collected for Christmas. The home economics classes made new dresses for the dolls, while the shop classes turned lumber into trucks, games, and other toys. As Christmas approached, we students wrapped the toys and loaded the packages for delivery. As we presented the gifts, we saw joy in many faces, especially those of the children. We had a few more visits to make on Christmas morning. The air was heavy and chilled us to the bone. A rancher offered us his truck for deliveries, and we gratefully accepted. For several hours, we knocked on doors, but as the cold hours passed, our enthusiasm gradually waned. Good vibes, good vibes. When we finally headed home, someone pointed to a small house down a canal bank. Although there were no electric or telephone lines running to the structure, smoke curled from the chimney. The house stood bleakly in the forlorn terrain that surrounded it. None of us knew who lived there, and we wondered if there were children. We still had a doll, two trucks, some small toys, chocolate Santas, and a box of groceries. We decided to make one last visit. We climbed down from the truck and gathered the gifts. Mud sucked at our boots, slowing our progress. When we knocked on the door, a young woman whose dark hair was tied back with a red ribbon answered it. Three small children peeked from behind her skirt, a girl of about 2, and boys perhaps 4 and 5 years old. The mother put an arm around the toddler and looked at us questioningly. Merry Christmas, we chorused as we bent down and handed the gift wrap packages to the children and the box of groceries to the mother, whose eyes widened with amazement. She slowly smiled, then quickly said, "Come in." The catch in her voice was sufficient for us to accept her invitation. We removed our boots and stepped inside. I knelt to reach the little girl, and it was then that I looked around the room. When the linoleum floor was worn but spotless, bleached flour sack curtains hung at the windows. Neatly made beds occupied one corner of the room, and the kitchen another. A small stove furnished heat. As I turned back to the children, dressed in clean, neatly patched clothes, I noticed several green tree branches standing upright in a dirt filled pot. A red cloth circled the base. Can lids and paper angels hung on strings, and a paper star graced the top. Streamers of popcorn completed the tree. The room was silent, as the children looked at their mother, wondering if the gifts were really for them. The little girl hugged her doll, and the boys grasped the trucks as they sought an answer. She put her arms around them and said in a choked voice, "I told you Santa Claus would come." That's from Beverly Roberts, Jostad, Salem, Oregon. I don't know what you mean, Carolyn. Sisterly love. In 1946, my mother was a widow caring for seven children, all under age 16, and times were hard for us. My two older brothers had gone to work a few hours a day for the Sisters of Loretto, so things were looking a little better. There was much talk around our house about being good and Santa watching, but my younger brothers and I knew this year was different. Imagine our surprise when we came home from midnight mass to find treasures under the tree. Mine included a doll that cried and a red reversible raincoat. I was thrilled to see my brothers had received toy cars and warm shirts and boots, and my sister had gotten a vanity set and some new clothes. It was years before I learned the good sisters of Loretto had sent most of our Christmas presents home with my two older brothers. On Christmas morning, we went skating on our pond. A hole had been chopped in the ice so the cows and horses could get water. Of course, I fell through it, and after I was pulled to safety, spent the rest of the day inside warming up. How loved I felt that day, wrapped in a blanket, holding my doll, and watching my new coat steam by the fireplace. I remember rocking away, listening to my mother sing in the kitchen, and thinking that I was very wealthy indeed. From Mary Cecil, New Haven, Connecticut. My father was sent overseas. This one's called Friends Did Not Forget Them. My father was sent overseas in July 1944, and wasn't long afterward that we received a telegram saying he was missing in action. A few days later, there was a knock on the door, and we learned he had died at Normandy. My mother became a widow with three young children to raise: my brother, age 8, my sister, 3, and me at 6. It looked like Christmas would be a dark time for our family. Mom didn't have money to buy presents and a tree. Then we received an invitation from Jake and Ruth Wise, some friends who farmed near Fernald, Iowa, to spend our Christmas holiday with them. You can imagine how excited we were when we got the news we were going to ride the train from Des Moines to Nevada, Iowa. Christmas morning was an exciting time. There were presents under the tree for us and candy and fruit in our stockings. There was a sumptuous dinner and then an even bigger treat. Snow was plentiful, and Jake had a sleigh and horses to take us on our first sleigh ride. It was great until the horses got loose and ran away. The sleigh tipped over, and I got snow up my coat sleeves. Each Christmas season, I look back at that time and realize how much it now means to me that they would remember a sad widow and her children. From Beverly Graver, Jonesboro, Tennessee. And here's a picture of the family, the parents and the three little kids. Hi, Isabel. Oh, wait, that's the one from the previous story. And then this. Okay. Let's see. Reasons to rejoice. Let me know when Carolyn goes live, guys. Okay. Power of prayer. After the Christmas program at our little rural schoolhouse, everyone went downstairs to the basement for refreshments. I was serving punch while our 6-year-old daughter, Katrina, was playing with the other children. All of a sudden, I heard the cry of a child. Someone grabbed my arm and said it was my daughter. I ran to her. She had fallen and hit her head on the basement cement floor. Seconds later, she stopped crying. To my horror, I saw she was unconscious. My husband scooped her up and we ran to the car. The hospital was nearly 35 miles away. Katrina's breathing was very shallow, and her tiny body felt lifeless. It was the longest 40 minutes of our lives. At the hospital, Katrina still wasn't responding. I stood next to her as she lay in bed, now hooked up to IVs and wearing a neck brace. Suddenly, she looked up at me and said, "Mommy." I burst into tears. The doctors told us that she had a severe concussion but would be okay. Later, we found out after we left the school, everyone had gathered to pray for Katrina. We know she was in the Lord's hands and He gave her back to us. From Brenda Nilsley, Bloomfield, Montana. Hi, Jess Ruby. Good neighbors. In December 1963, my father told my 2 sisters and me that he couldn't afford presents that year, not even our traditional treats of chocolates, nuts, and fruit. My mother suffered a stroke the year before and was constantly going to the hospital, so there was no money for Christmas. On Christmas Eve, we heard a knock on the door. 2 ladies came in and gave us new coats along with some holiday treats. Our neighbor across the street had told her church about our situation, and the people of the congregation wanted to help. I'll never forget our kind neighbor and the members of her generous church. That's from Sheila Dean in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And here we go, another one. Collected kindness. We were in the 18th month of my husband's layoff, and money was very tight. Christmas was right around the corner, and we had 3 daughters under the age of 7. I did my best to come up with inexpensive gifts, buying clearance items and making what I could by hand. But it broke my heart to know that the sparkle would not be in the girls' eyes on Christmas morning. We attended church together as a family on Christmas Eve as usual. After the service, we walked back to our car in the parking lot, and everything changed. As we opened the car doors, bags and boxes of gifts began spilling out. The back seat was packed with presents, trinkets, candy, everything a little girl could hope for. And that wasn't all. Back at home, we found an envelope of money taped to the door. Shortly afterward, visitors arrived carrying bags and a handful of more cash. We didn't know it at the time, but the offering that had just been collected at church had been destined for us. Though it was years ago and our girls were very young, they still talk about the miracle of that Christmas. That's from Vicki Allison, Bessemer, Pennsylvania. That's nice, isn't it? People really are good, aren't they? Majority of people are good. They really are. And they always come through. This is called Secret Gifts. A doctor's patients received a gift they never knew about and one his family would never forget. The depression was sapping the life from my dad. You could see the toll in his lined and haggard face, his hollowed eyes, the slump of his shoulders. His devotion to the medical needs of our rural county, which was beset with unemployment and hopelessness, gave him little rest. You need to eat and get some rest, William, Mom pleaded. What if you get sick? What will your patients do then? And what about me and the kids? You should see them, Ellen. They have given up hope. Their health is going, along with everything else. I think I read this last Christmas, but it was good, so I'm going to read it again. After meals, Dad pulled a large, worn ledger from his desk and added the names of the patients he'd seen that day. Once my sister Jane asked, "Why do you waste time on the ledger, Dad? Those people won't pay, and you won't ever ask them." "They can't pay," Dad replied patiently. "Times will get better. Then my patients will come around. They have so little now, and pride and honor are what they value most." Despite Mom's fretting, she couldn't imagine her rock of strength could ever crumble. She was as shocked as the rest of us when Dad died of a coronary after helping a young mother through a difficult delivery. His funeral was the largest our community had ever seen. Mom reached deep, deep for inner strength, calmly accepting the condolences offered by Dad's patients. After the funeral, we sat at the kitchen table. "What will we do?" Jean asked. "We'll make it," Mom answered firmly. "William left a little money, and I have 3 strong children to help." Be realistic, Mom," Jane said. "What can 2 boys and I do when half the men in the county can't find work?" Gestures of gratitude. My sister looked at the ledger on Dad's desk. "There's our answer. Ask people who are working to pay something on their bills." Mom frowned. "I can't do that. Those who are working can't make ends meet. William wouldn't ask, and neither will I." Unmoved, Jane said, "There are collection agencies that'll do it for us." Mom flushed. "I know you're trying to help, but we'll not discuss this any further." A few weeks later, a letter came from an agency offering to collect the unpaid bills for a fee. Jane confessed that she'd contacted the agency. Mom tore up the letter. "Those agencies are run by cold-hearted people," she said. "I don't want them making life miserable for the people Bill loved." She dropped the shreds into the fire, turned to me and said, "Come on, John. We need to find a spot for the garden." As it turned out, we needn't have even worried about a garden. The first ripening of vegetables brought a stream of produce to our door. Dad's patients came with beans, tomatoes, corn, eggs, and butter. When Mom thanked them, they looked down humbly. "He helped us when we needed help," a woman said. "I wish we could do more." A precious secret gift. Summer gave way to fall. The produce changed. There was no change in quantity. Apples, pears, canned fruit, and late vegetables continued to arrive. Letters from the collection agency kept coming and went to the firebox. The ledger was put away. As Christmas neared, Mom tried to prepare us for a meager holiday. Again, we failed to gauge the depth of Dad's patience, gratitude. The last cold days of Christmas week, we received gifts of pies, cured hams, fresh beef, cakes, knitted mittens and scarves, even a hand-sewn quilt. Our spirits lifted as we opened boxes of ornaments to decorate a pine tree a neighbor had brought us. On Christmas Eve, we gathered around the fireplace. Mom looked at the presents under the tree and said, "We're having a wonderful Christmas, thanks to the good people who have shared with us. They're gifts from your father, too. He gave himself to the people, and they have returned it to us. There's something we can give too." She paused and glanced at Jane. "Get the ledger." Mom leafed through the book, reading names in Dad's handwriting. "This will be a secret gift," she said. You must promise you will never tell anyone." Mom tore the first page from the ledger and threw it into the fire. We watched as the paper burst into flame. Then she nodded to me, and I did the same with the next page. Bob had his turn, then Jane. Page after page, we threw the debts into the fire. Mom was serene as she looked at the charred remains. Her smile radiated enough love to encompass each of us around the fire and all our friends who would never know about their secret Christmas gift. That was sweet, wasn't it? Let's see. Hard at work. Did you like it, Whisper? Oh, wait, we'll read this one. Going home for Christmas. Stranded in a blizzard, they were blessed by good Samaritans. And here's pictures of them right here. Sorry. This is just the opposite of what it's supposed to be. Yeah. Sorry, guys. This is from Pamela Bressler Williams. She lives in Jamesville, Virginia. Good, Whisper. Good. I want all you guys to enjoy. Look what Linda sent me. Hi, Boom Pow. Santa on a scooter. Look, he has a wreath on the front of it. It's really heavy, too. And these beautiful ornaments. Silver. Just got them today. And they are heavy. Thank you, Linda, if you're still here. Holidays without family would be unimaginable. So 2 days before Christmas, my husband and I stuffed the Buick with gifts and began the 9-hour trek from Cincinnati, Ohio to York, Pennsylvania. Full of Christmas spirit, we donned the handmade Mr. and Mrs. Claus hats my mother had made and set out. As night approached, we were crossing the western mountains of Pennsylvania and singing along with Nat King Cole's The Christmas Song. When we saw smoke rising from under the hood, we quickly pulled over, shut off the engine, and looked under the hood, then decided it would be best to leave the motor off until we could get help. It was around then that the first snowflake floated down, and as we hadn't bothered to check the forecast before leaving, we had no blanket, no candles, no flashlight, and since it was 30 years ago, no cell phone. In what seemed like minutes, there were 3 inches of snow on the ground. The wind began howling, and we saw almost no cars on the road. As darkness descended, we shivered and huddled together in silence. Soon, the snowfall was 6 inches deep. The car was covered, and we feared that even if cars did pass, they would think ours was abandoned since the emergency flashers were buried. As fast as we pushed the snow off, we were covered up again. Getting out of the car seemed even more dangerous than freezing inside. I was delighted to see flashing lights as a state police car rolled up next to us, and the trooper said, "Jump in and warm up." But after only 5 glorious minutes of heat, he apologetically sent us back out into the snow, explaining that the cold was stopping diesel-powered vehicles in the passing lanes, and those were his first priority. The good news was that a tow truck was on its way. After those toasty moments, the Buick seemed even colder, but finally the tow truck appeared. The driver attached our car, and we scrambled into the warm cab. Now the question became where to go. It was late, and we were in the mountains, and the few motels we passed were filled or closed. Finally, the driver spied a motel with vacancies. Since it was too dangerous for him to navigate the steep driveway with his truck, he dumped us and our suitcases at the top of the hill and drove off with our car and a promise to contact us on Christmas Eve so we could retrieve our presents. It was impossible for us to walk down the hill to the motel, so we sat on our suitcases and slid to the bottom. Luckily for us, the folks at the Laurel Highlands Motel in Donegal, I don't know how you pronounce it, absolutely exemplified the Christmas spirit. Normally, they closed up a large portion of their place in winter, but that night they opened every room. We settled into one of the remaining rooms and called the family to tell them we were okay. Soon the lobby was crowded with more stranded people, and the owners reopened the restaurant. We all crowded around the lobby television to watch the local news and discover the wind chill was 40 degrees below zero. Oh, and you got 7 inches of snow today, and it's 5 degrees. Oh my goodness, Tammy. They're calling for all that around here. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah, cold there. I was living proof of that. In a few days, my face peeled as if I had suffered. Oh, their wind chill was 40 degrees below zero. In a few days, my face peeled as if I had suffered a bad sunburn. The next day, the tow truck driver took us back to our car, which couldn't be fixed. In the bitter cold, we started to load the gifts into the tow truck to begin the 20-mile drive to the nearest car rental agency. When the driver removed his gloves to help shift the gifts around, I demanded in my best teacher's voice that he put them back on. He quietly replied, "I just didn't want to mess up the pretty presents." We had another lucky break on Christmas Eve. Despite the brutal weather. Oh my goodness. We were able to rent the agency's last car, a gorgeous navy blue Cougar, and drive on to be with our family. We were almost speechless with joy since we already had our Christmas miracle. No further gifts were required. Well, get ready because it sucks. I know a lot of people hate it, Tammy. I love it though. I hate the cold though. I want it to snow but be warm out. I know, makes no sense. It's so pretty. Dave Royce gets mad. Says you wouldn't think it's so pretty if you're gonna be out there shoveling. Hi, Henny. He's always Mr. Serious. And he's number one fan. Oh, I want to show you guys one of my own little stories. How about that? One of my for real Christmas stories. I'm going to show you right now. I hope you can see this well enough. If I knew how to get this to StreamYards, I could put it right on the screen. Settings. So horrible. I wish I could do this, you know? Why can't I do this? I need lessons. I'll just have to hold it up like usual. Okay. Dang it. I can't even get this up here right. This is one of the first Christmas Eves I remember. I'm going to get some more old photos at my parents' house. This is me, Becky, and Michael. I think it was Christmas Eve, 1961. We were at our grandparents', my mom's mom and dad, and they had Christmas Eve at their house every year while we were young. And that's, where did it go? Here, I want you guys to see. My brother, do you see he's wearing a little army uniform? It even has our last name on it, Corbett. Can you see? Whisper. Look, I'm talking in his ear like I'm holding on to him, you know, like, don't be afraid. And that's the Christmas I wanted. All I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth. I remember my grandpa singing that to me, and I would sing it. Then I would say, everybody, don't sing that to me. Anyway, that's the uniform my uncle brought him back when he came home from the army. And I remember before this was taken, we were, you know, opening gifts or whatever we were doing. I don't know, playing and having fun and eating. And all of a sudden, there was bells You could hear a bell outside, the Christmas. You've heard this. You could hear it outside. And I think it was my granny, and my granny said, listen, oh my gosh, listen, kids. So she had us all go and look out the window, and we could see down the road coming around the curve Santa Claus. And he was walking, and he had a bag with him, and he was saying, ho, 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 ho. And it was so nice. We were like so in awe. We just could not believe this. And it was snowing real lightly, the snowflakes coming down as he was ho, ho, ho. And he came up to the house. He came in and he had a bag of presents in it for us 3 kids. I knew then, though, he wasn't the real Santa, because I could tell from his face that he was really young. And it turned out he was my uncle's friend, one of his high school friends. But, it was a good memory. And see the tree there painted on the wall? My granny had these murals in her house that she painted. This was on the living room wall, a huge tree. We have the tree, a picture of the tree somewhere in one of our bins of pictures. So that's one of my favorite Christmas memories, one of my first Christmas memories. And let's read one more, and then we're going to be done. It'll be 1 hour. Mary, ho, ho, ho. How you doing, lady? Christmas is coming very soon. Okay, so our last one. It is called Hard at Work. Christmas Suddenly on Hold. And look how pretty this picture is. A farm in the snow. Can you guys hear little Minnie snoring on the floor here? She's so cute. So sweet. Snoring in her little bed. I'm glad you're doing good, Mary. It was Christmas morning, 1956, on our dairy farm outside of Menominee, Wisconsin, and I was 7 years old, the youngest of 3 kids. We already had a foot of snow on the ground, and the temperature plummeted below 0 overnight. As my dad and my brother bundled up to head to the barn for the morning milking, Mother went down to the basement to add some more wood to the furnace. I was inquisitively inspecting the brightly wrapped gifts under the tree when our Christmas plans hit a roadblock. Dad came inside to announce that the electric pump that brought water from our well was out. He tried to fix it, and we would still be able to draw some water, but we would have to conserve as much as possible. Leaving my brother to the milking chores, Dad headed back out with his tools. The pump stood about 20 feet from the back of the house, fully exposed to the icy wind. Soon Dad came back inside, red-faced from the cold, to say he couldn't repair the pump. Now my parents wondered if they would even find a repairman on Christmas willing to brave the cold, and would the needed part be available? We'd had enough water for coffee and to boil potatoes, but we would have to keep dishwashing to a minimum. There was water for washing hands, but not for bathing. That meant no church for us that Christmas Day. No self-respecting farmer who handled barn animals would head for town without a thorough scrubbing. We wouldn't be able to use the toilet either. But there was still the old outhouse in the yard. Although unused for many years, it was functional. So, yes, we could survive for a day, but caring for the animals and milking were another matter entirely. Each milking required 2 huge tubs of water to clean the milkers and milk pails. Every morning, the milkman would come and pump out our milk tank, followed by a thorough cleaning of the tank using more water. Not to mention that 40 head of cattle would require many gallons of drinking water in 24 hours. Hi, Jen Grill. Hi. Cross-eyed Betty, are you around? Cross-eyed Betty, you in the house? I keep calling her, guys. She never comes. Cross-eyed Betty. Maybe she'll come. Maybe she'll be the Christmas miracle. Let's see. Dad had to find someone to fix our pump. He tried a few numbers but got no answer. Finally, he reached one and happily reported that a repairman was on his way. As the repairman headed out to the pump, I pressed my nose to the window to track his progress. When I saw him remove his gloves, I rushed to Mother to let her know of this strange development. She explained that he had no choice but to take off his gloves to handle the small parts that were needed to fix the pump, but that he'd have to work fast before his fingers stiffened in the cold. After fixing the pump, the repairman returned to the house. I remember my dad asking him how much he owed him, and the man replying, $5.60. How much? Said my dad, not believing his ears. Apparently, the repairman thought Dad was challenging the price and explained, it's 60 cents for the part, and I'd like $5 for my work. Dad said, well, you'll have to take more than that for coming out on Christmas. I recall Dad opening his billfold and hesitating. I think he was wondering how much he should give the man to compensate him for his work without making him feel foolish for asking for so little. I believe it was a $20 bill that changed hands that morning. Then Dad asked if he had a hot dinner waiting. The man was a bachelor and said he'd fix himself something once he got home. Dad invited him to stay for dinner, and he gratefully accepted. Mother set a festive holiday table for us, and we were grateful for our many blessings, including the pump man who joined us that day. That's from Mary Drake, Freeport, Illinois. And that's it for tonight for our holiday memories. Thank you, Tammy, for saying that. Yes, please hit the like if you guys wouldn't mind doing what Tammy's asking. She's so kind. Thank you, guys. Really appreciate it. And see you later. Bye, guys. Love you.